Okay, hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to SKALE Early Token Holder AMA. We have here SKALE team, and we have Jack O'Halloran, SKALE CEO and co-founder, and Stan Kladko, SKALE CTO and co-founder. Stan and Jack will be the speakers today. And my name is Jenny Berkanova. I run marketing for SKALE, and I'll be moderating the event. So welcome, everyone. Hi, Jack. Hi, Stan.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining today. This is, it's so exciting to have such a large community of active SKALE token holders and delegators. And yeah, it's an honor to be here. And Stan and I are really excited just to tell you all more about SKALE and really answer any questions. So happy to be here.
Yes. Hi. So again, hi, everybody. And we are really excited to start. We have so many signups for the event, and we already have over 100 participants live and new people are joining. We have a very long list of questions that was pre-submitted to us. We'll be receiving live questions during the AMA. Please submit the questions to the question tab. And I can see people are joining from all over the world. So Jack is based in Silicon Valley, myself in Silicon Valley. Stan is joining from Ukraine. And hello, I can see people from Sweden, UK, US, Belgium. So hi, everybody, and welcome. Before we begin, I need to do some housekeeping. We received a lot of questions on SKALE, we received a lot of questions on exchange listing. We cannot cover those today, but what we can for sure say that the token will be listed, but due to legal reasons, we cannot talk about any particular exchanges. So please bear with us, and there is not so long of a wait left till the network lock lifts, until the token goes live. So very excited to have SKALE community here, very excited to have SKALE co-founders here, and let's begin. So let me introduce.
By the way, Jenny, before you kick off, I just want to say I'm looking here at the chat. I'm seeing India, Mexico, Netherlands, Germany, Ethiopia, Romania, UK, Sweden, so Dubai. Hey, really awesome to see California and so on and so forth. So really cool to see this community come together from across the globe.
Yes, welcome from Puerto Rico, everybody from everywhere.
Turkey. Yeah.
So let me introduce our speakers today, Stan Kladko and Jack O'Halloran. We'll begin with Stan, and Stan has a fantastic background. Stan has been in cryptography for over 20 years, has been doing research in Stanford and in Los Alamos lab here in the US, has worked on the team of legendary Dan Bonnet, who is the co-creator of BLS signatures, which are fundamental to the success of the entire crypto space today. And Stan has also been on the early Java virtual machine team. And as you guys know, Java virtual machine is fundamental to Android, which most of world's phones today run on. So Stan, welcome. And could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I don't want to repeat what Zhenya said, but the easiest way to understand me, I'm pretty much a very typical nerd. So I was studying mathematics and physics and programming when I was at high school. I participated in all kinds of math and physics competitions. Then I started to do my PhD in Germany at Max Planck Institute. I did my PhD in physics. Then I moved to the States. I was at Los Alamos National Lab and at Stanford. And then, as many people, I moved into startups. So my first startup was called Ingram Networks, and it was founded by Professor Dan Bonnet doing network-based encryption technology. So it was a hardware encryption box that we actually were selling to banks and different other financial institutions. So after the startup, I worked at Sun Microsystems, Java virtual machine team. Also, then I founded a security lab, which was working with the US government and National Institute of Standards and Technology in Maryland on cryptography and security of different commercial products. So I did some work for government. After that, I actually founded several startups. One of the startups was in Wi-Fi security. It was acquired by a telecom company in London and actually powers many Wi-Fi installations in places like London, Thames River, Manhattan, New York, San Francisco, public Wi-Fi, many other Wi-Fi installations. So I was doing this Wi-Fi startup. And after the Wi-Fi startup, I got money for a big data startup. And we were doing a big data platform, trying to compete with Google and AWS on big data simplification. And it was really hard to compete with these monsters. So the startup was not doing well, so we were about to get acqui-hired. And then suddenly all of the crypto thing happened. And I remember I got a ticket to DEF CON 3, like everyone was cheering. It was 2017. I kind of immediately realized that it was a very different and nice place, crypto. It was a place where you could do many things and there would not be competition like Google or AWS. So essentially, kind of almost instantly made the decision to jump into this. And then I met Jack, who also at that time was interested in moving into crypto because he was doing an early crypto project at his former startup. And then together with our early stage VCs, we started to kind of look into what we need to do and almost immediately realized that what needs to be done is to speed up ETH, Ethereum, because it was clear to us that Ethereum was winning. It's a platform that has so many developers that it is going to stay pretty much like forever. And someone who is able to speed up ETH is going to be doing a very important project. So that's pretty much how we got into this space. And now I'm going to let Jack also tell a little bit more about himself.
Yeah, that's great. And just to give some of the Jack's background, as Jack has a very impressive entrepreneurial background. So Jack connects startup experience and experience in enterprise, serial entrepreneur, had multiple previous successful exits. The exit history includes the deal between the Good Technology and Motorola, which was one of the very significant deals here in the US in tech space. So Jack, welcome. And can you please give us some background on yourself and also tell us how you and Stan decided to start Scale and to solve the scalability problem for you?
All right, great. Well, hey, thank you, Jenia, for the intro. So I won't repeat anything here. And I think if any of you have heard me on podcasts, you've probably heard parts of my story. But I've been doing tech startups since 2005 in Silicon Valley and started in mobile and cryptography, then started a company in machine learning, AI space, and almost every rep and biotech rep in the world is guided to give better healthcare information to doctors in every major economic region. So did that, had a phenomenal learning experience. And one of the things about startups is you learn the hard way. You can read, you can study, but there's really a practice. And Stan and I think, really connected on this around product market fit and understanding solving the issues for customers, build products people want. And I think one of the advantages, one of the exciting things that we've been able to bring together and this whole community has been able to bring together is applying a lot of proven techniques around really product market fit, customer development, building the right product, solving pain points, and doing it the right way. And we've been able to apply that to crypto where, Stan and I both have some background. So anyways, it's been exciting. But for me, I was getting ready to start another machine learning company back in 2017. When I really dove down the crypto rabbit hole, and I bet a lot of people here have a similar experience where that's why we're all here today, right? We, at some point, learned something that changed our brains. And for me, it was, you know what, you can start a company that is not a normal type of company. It's not a value extraction company. It's not about maximizing profits. It's about growing community and having a new form of a business. And I like calling it democratized business. And Scale is a great example of that. Everybody who has a token can actually vote on the protocol when on-chain voting is implemented here soon. Everyone who makes money, when someone pays for a chain, that doesn't go to a team, that goes to everyone staking and working in the platform and in the network, right? And so these new businesses are impactful at the infrastructure level. We already see this happening. But the next wave is where this starts happening in finance, and it starts happening in gaming, and it starts happening in Web3, it starts happening in all these other business categories where we have rent-seeking middlemen that are taking way more value than they deserve. And so that's the piece to me that got me excited. And the cool thing is cryptography is what enables these trustless systems to work. Okay, so Stan and I met, and I have to say, Stan, I'm really good at product market fit, but Stan just is a technical visionary, and our brains, when they came together, I think worked really well, because what we see now with Scale, and I'm excited to tell all of you a little more about it, was really just brewing in Stan's head. So it was really cool to see that in action and see someone of his caliber and expertise and all his skills and expertise come together and really be perfectly applied to solving this problem. So,
yeah,
and then I have to say, really awesome too to see Jenny and all of the Scale core team come together in both Ukraine and San Francisco, and then now see this community really foster and develop around the world. And it's a community-owned project, and it's an open source project, and we're just excited that it's all of our baby now, and we all can take care of it and help it grow from this point forward.
Yeah, I love it. And the multiple events that happened since the token launch, since when we started building the protocol, Scale is always community first. And so all the support we're getting from the community now is so important. We're always community first, and all the decisions that Scale will ever be making will be made to benefit the community and the long-term success of the protocol. So let's begin with the questions. I think that the best way to open is to open with a short Scale overview, and we have some questions on what is Scale. So what is Scale, and how does it solve scalability problem for Ethereum? Jack, that will be a great question for you.
Yeah, so I'll kick this off, and Stan, feel free to augment my points. But first off, I want to say anybody who's interested, we have a lot of resources. You can go really deep here. And I think we'll publish a blog this week or next week that has kind of like the top 5 things to listen to, watch, and read, okay? But what I'm going to say now, I'm going to try to distill it into 3 points, okay? Most people understand blockchain really well, so I'm not going to go into basics. I'm going to talk about 3 specific things, and I think for anybody, if anyone said, hey, what is Scale? If you say these 3 things, I think it'll be pretty accurate. So number 1, Scale is a network of many, many blockchains. It's almost like an internet of blockchains, and that word is used by other projects, and I think it's accurate in a lot of ways to describe what Scale is. So 1,000 nodes could run 8,000 independent blockchains, and what that means is each one of those can work for a specific application, okay? And so instead of having a lot of nodes that run one chain, there's a lot of nodes that run a lot of chains, and these nodes all work together, and one node could be at the start on 32 different chains, and very soon 128 different chains, okay? And so we get a lot of value out of the network and a lot of efficiency, and that's really due to containerization and microservices, and you can read about Docker if you want to learn more about this, but these are things that are coming from the enterprise that are giving really big companies efficiency and software companies efficiencies in delivering product that we've applied to decentralized networks, okay? So number 1, a network of many, many blockchains, okay? Number 2, it's configurable and elastic. What that means is you can pick the version you want, and imagine if you're going to buy a car and you could say, I want a V6 engine, I want a 4-cylinder, I want to pay a lot, I want the V8. And you could say, hey, I want these exhaust pipes, and but instead of having to sell the car and get a new one, you could modify it back up and down because it's elastic, okay? And so that means for developers, for businesses, for people and communities that are running projects that need a blockchain, they can pick what they want, just like you could if you were a customer of Amazon or Google Cloud, okay? It's modular, configurable, and elastic, all right? And that's a big differentiator and something important, we think, to get Ethereum in the hands of hundreds of millions of users, okay? We need to have efficiencies and specificity for developers. Okay, number 3 is it is interoperable and built in tandem with Ethereum, okay? This is a big differentiator. a lot of projects are starting to say, hey, we have Ethereum support, okay? And they're saying we have a bridge, but it's an entirely separate ecosystem. Scale is actually built, I would say, almost half on Ethereum and half in the Scale network. And the Ethereum network provides foundational security to the Scale network. And so if you want to chain, guess what? You go to the mainnet, these smart contracts actually dictate and secure and assign the resources that work for you in the Scale network. If you stake, your stake goes in the Ethereum mainnet. When you get paid your staking return, that all happens through Ethereum. So Ethereum, in a way, is this operational engine and brain that helps run the Scale network, okay? And so there's one other component that's interesting. It's the interoperability for a developer and composability. So every single chain, right? We talked about a lot of blockchains and configurable. Each one runs Ethereum virtual machine. And so every developer then just gets Ethereum. So if something works on EVM on the mainnet, it works on Scale. It's composable. Now, it can't be connected into the exact same block, but it's one step away. It's one weak link away to say, boom, send data to the mainnet and update state. But also each Scale chain is interoperable and composable with each other. And we'll see people build applications on Ethereum and then have their Scale chains actually talk as well, gaining another level of composability, which is really valuable in DeFi and gaming and markets and different areas where in Web3, where I think Scale interchain messaging will be a decentralized connection point for people using Scale in tandem with the mainnet. So those are the three critical things. And at the end of the day, if you're a developer, what that means is you can run Ethereum fast at low prices, at the price you want, at the speed you're willing to pay for. And you know what? You also can do things like run storage and other and machine learning algorithms. What really is boiling up to, this is the new decentralized cloud. So we think the future of Web3 will need a decentralized cloud backend like AWS or Amazon EC2 or Google Cloud. This is what that future world looks like, this internet of blockchains that can do storage, can run transactions, can run smart contracts, do compute, etc. Okay.
Yeah.
Stan, anything to add?
Yeah, I just, great. I just wanted to add a little more. I think the first thing that every startup is supposed to ask, the first question is, what do people actually want? Because startups die when they try to produce something that people don't want. And for us, it's very clear at the moment that what people want, they want decentralized Google, decentralized Uber, decentralized GitHub. You know, a couple of weeks ago, there was a story where there was a great app that was letting people download music from YouTube. And the app was very legal. It was nothing illegal about it. And GitHub just randomly took this app down because GitHub is owned by Microsoft. So the community, the open source community, was really, really upset by that. So people want decentralized GitHub. People want decentralized Uber. You know, if you pretty much drive with any Uber driver, Uber drivers are really not happy that Uber takes like 30% of their pay. And the decentralized Uber could take zero rent. So it's a rentless enterprise. Decentralized Uber, decentralized Google. I actually asked a question on Twitter, you know, what people need more. And I was more like thinking about decentralized GitHub and decentralized Uber, but actually most of, like over 50% of people said they want decentralized Google because they're sick and tired of getting the search results they can't really affect, and they actually are getting worse and worse. So we at Scale, what we need to provide to people a way to create decentralized Google, decentralized Uber, decentralized GitHub, decentralized YouTube. And we need to do it like now. We don't want to wait like 5 years, right? So that's actually what's driving us. So we essentially want to build something that provides infrastructure for this, where you can easily move from Web 2 to Web 3 and start creating these decentralized applications. Now the question becomes, how do you do it? And you know, what really differentiates us from the others are pretty much two things. One thing is that we believe in blockchain. A blockchain, I mean, a very simple way to kind of explain what a blockchain is. A blockchain is a network of symmetric nodes or symmetric actors where everyone has the same rights, equal rights. So, and people kind of vote in some ways, but the point is that if you have a blockchain and you take down one node, do 2 nodes, 3 nodes, the thing is resilient. It could be in different countries, run by different validators. So people want this resiliency and decentralization because the entire crypto market is about creating a new, more efficient economy that doesn't have government or corporate regulations, right? People are sick and tired of having a financial industry where it's pretty difficult to do things. Like, you know, it's very hard to invest in this world. On the other hand, it's very hard to get investment. So you may have some people, some small businesses that need investment in some places. And on the other hand, you may have some, you know, retired people that can't really get good return on their bank account, on their savings account. So the economy is very inefficient, and people who do blockchain and crypto, they want to have a more efficient economy that is not affected so much by the government and by the corporations. And that's why blockchain is so important. You know, 450 billion valuation of the crypto market means that people around the world, they want a new alternative technology. They just don't want to have the old things as far as financial things are concerned. So blockchain is super important. And because of that, at Scale, we think that the world of tomorrow will be run on blockchain as the major thing. There may be some other solutions, maybe some other technologies, but as niche things, they will be okay, but the mainstream is going to be blockchain. So we believe in blockchain, that's number one. Number two, we believe in ETH. And I think, you know, that's very simple. And the best way to understand that computer science is to look into history. If you look at the history of computer science, when a language or a framework becomes successful, it's extremely hard to win against this network or technology or framework. For instance, as an example, JavaScript, it's a pretty bad language. But, you know, it was designed and it got evolved for many, many years. And now the browsers of today still run modified JavaScript, although many people predicted that there would be some new technology. But once people learned JavaScript, it was very hard for them to change. So and everywhere in computer science, you see that once you have a new programming language like C or Solidity for smart contracts or Python, it's extremely hard to compete. That's why, because there is a development, also because there is a developer community, we think ETH is going to evolve and it's going to transform into an ecosystem, but then ultimately it's going to flourish, and we don't believe in anything outside of ETH. We're really ETH believers. So that's number two that differentiates us. And number three that differentiates us, we believe in loosely coupled systems. If you look at the history of computers, initially computers were these huge mainframes. You know, if you look at what was happening before Steve Jobs and before PC and before personal computer, right? There were these huge, very powerful computers and supercomputers, and people thought that they would be just evolving, and no one was thinking about a personal computer. But then the personal computer was introduced, and then the internet. People understood that a loosely coupled system of many interacting things is better than a monolith, like huge thing such as a supercomputer. Because of the same reason, we believe that the world of tomorrow is just going to be, a set of loosely coupled blockchains that can talk to each other in a very same way as the world of today is an internet of loosely coupled computers that talk to each other. In fact, what we see we can do, we can literally take the things that run on Web 2 and literally move them to Web 3 and make them ETH compatible. So next year, you'll be able to take Scale and run Git on it, GitHub, or you'll be able to stream music from it, or you will be able to run a website from it. So our goal is actually very simple. We want to take the web of today, Web 2, And with little modification as possible, we want to move it to Web3 and make it decentralized so no one is owning it. So there's no like a corporation like Google or like Apple or like AWS owning things. Instead of there's a community that can do things. So that's what was driven by the technology. And the last thing which is super important for us is to be mathematically clean, meaning that every single thing that we do needs to be mathematically provable. Because if your system is mathematically secure, you have the solid foundation, and the only thing that can happen is bugs, but you can fix bugs, right? And then you can sleep at night and you can know that your system runs. While if your system doesn't have mathematical foundation, you never know if it's going to crash or if it's going to run or someone is going to hack it. So it's super important for us to be scientific. And for this one, we are, because we're like a tiny startup, we can't really do research ourselves. Our position from the start has been to compile and sift through all kinds of academic research done at universities and just select whatever things is best for us. You know, as Steve Jobs said, you know, the great entrepreneurs steal. So we've tried to sift them, like analyze all of these academic papers and great university research, and we pretty much like took and installed it in some way, and we're trying to transform it and make it practical and bring it to you guys so we can use it. So pretty much that's really our vision, which is kind of simple. We just want the web of today become the decentralized web, and we want all of the ETH tools and developers and things to actually be compatible with this.
So hey yeah, Jenny, I have a suggestion on, I know we had some questions that we'd received online earlier, but I keep seeing this question about Scale and ETH2, and I feel like everybody wants to know. I'd love to answer that, but let's push that up because I know people are curious. It's really critical. Okay, and Stan, thank you. That's good. I think very good. Yeah, very good framing, and that's what we're doing here. That's the big vision, and that's why we're working so hard every day. So, but a big piece of this question is, what is Scale's role when ETH2 launches? Okay, and I first want to say, we designed Scale from day one to work with ETH2, but not just work with it, to augment it. Okay. ETH2 by itself will not get us to hundreds of millions of users. It won't get us to billions of users, okay? And it's not just a throughput issue, all right? It's not just about transactions per second. What we see a need, and Stan was saying loosely coupled systems. That's another way of saying we need databases that are independent, that are app specific. And so you can see now there's a lot of projects trying to build application specific blockchains, all right? And so what Scale is, Scale gives every Ethereum Dapp or business or project or community that's running on Ethereum an opportunity to have their own back-end database, just like you would in Web 2. It's not just a shared system. And what that means is it's even lower cost, even faster speeds, even more storage, and your performance isn't dependent on other people's success or failure. So imagine if we were all using Gmail and Twitter's spiking and it costs us more to send an email and it's slower, okay? That doesn't happen because Google, if you use Gmail, they have their own servers. Twitter has their own servers, okay? Their performance is not impacted. And that's a really macro, big picture thing, but when we get more specific, you look at ETH2 and you think about these 32 different shards and their ability to get scalability, to execute more smart contracts. Scale will connect seamlessly into each one and provide even more augmented performance for applications that are trying to take up big incumbents in finance, in Web 2 or Web 2 players, i.e. Web 3, gaming, et cetera, right? And even B2B space. I think B2B is going to be a massive disruption side in the next 5 years. So yeah, and you know what? We need ETH2. We want more scalability on the mainnet. Scale, if Scale is successful, Scale may be the most utilized Dapp in a sense on Ethereum, because you can almost think of the Scale network as a client or application that runs on Ethereum. Because Ethereum, every time a developer sets up a Scale chain, they have to pay the Ethereum mainnet. every time nodes are rotated, the Ethereum mainnet is paid and orchestrates that change. And so when Scale grows and gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it also helps Scale when Ethereum grows and has more shards and more capability to help the network. And frankly, more capability to help developers. And, but hey, if we have 10,000 users using Ethereum in 10 years, ETH2 will be sufficient. But that's not the reason why we're doing this. And that's the future that we see. And we're happy about ETH2 and Scale, we think, is a really, really nice fit. And that's why we designed it.
Yeah, that's great, Jack. Thank you. And there is also a lot of questions in the live feed. And those are questions on comparison of Scale and other Ethereum scaling technologies. So I think it will be a lot of value to cover that and explain how Scale is different, as there is a lot of ways in which people are trying to scale Ethereum and make it run faster. So Jack, how is Scale different?
Okay, so I think that a good way to describe this is a lot of people are saying, hey, Ethereum's jammed up, let's make it faster. There's three broad techniques, okay? And I'll talk about Scale, which one Scale fits into last. So the first one is people are saying, let's abandon blockchain and then let's run software on servers that can do fraud, that can check for fraud, okay? And so let's apply math on one computer or a few computers, and these computers are run by one entity or person, and then what they do is they check things for accuracy, okay? And then anytime something's not accurate, there's this timeout period that changes the workflow and the user experience, okay? Now that's what people are trying to perform with, we've seen this with Plasma and rollups and ZK and these other techniques, all right? And hey, there's some amazing teams and people building this technology. We think they'll be successful in certain areas, but they made a very clear design choice not to use a blockchain, all right? And when you don't use a decentralized system to solve a decentralized problem, you can run into issues, okay? Now, on the far side of this, let's go to the other side of the spectrum. It's entirely independent, separate blockchains from Ethereum. And so we see a lot of new blockchains popping up, and people used to call them the ETH killers, but now I think they realize ETH is where the action is, and they're trying to become the ETH scalers. But they're entirely separate. They're building bridges, and they're trying to do stuff that will give more composability with their smart contract platforms to Ethereum. But their challenge is it's not native Ethereum when you get over there. You have to do a lot of work in order to let smart contracts execute, okay? And for Ethereum developers, then they need to say, you know what, am I willing to leave the Ethereum family and go somewhere else, okay? Some of them are fine doing that for their needs. And I think we'll see a lot of successful big ETH supporter blockchains, okay? And it's nice to see smart people working the space, innovating, all right? But what the path we chose, and when Stan and I were going through this, we said, well, we could just build something entirely independent. We've got the consensus, we've got the BLS techniques, we've got all the crypto and the containerization. Should we just build another chain? And we realized that there's so much happening in Ethereum that if you can build something in Ethereum with Ethereum that brings the value of another blockchain, you have such greater security at the foundational level and such greater interoperability, okay? And that's what Scale is. Scale is literally built partially on Ethereum and partially on the Scale network. And what runs in each Scale chain is Ethereum, all right? But it also gives the Scale network ability to add new features and new things because it doesn't need to be part of the one monolithic chain, all right? Now, the other piece of that is some people would say, well, what about a side chain? Side chains, from my perspective, by the way, I think they need qualifiers. It's a broad term. It's just another blockchain. Somebody could say Ethereum could be a side chain to Bitcoin, right? It's just a blockchain next to a blockchain. Now, what Scale does, and we decided a traditional side chain is not secure enough. That's because there's a set number of operators, and if they collude, they can steal money, okay? And what Scale has is a lot of nodes that are randomly assigned through the security of the Ethereum mainnet to work for a Dapp. And then they're rotated. And so what it means is you get pooled security. So you get sidechain functionality or performance, the good parts of sidechains, without the bad parts of sidechains that makes them very collusion or not collusion resistant. So Scale fits in this piece that isn't a server like enterprise software solution by a private company. It's not a completely different system. It sits here in the middle, entirely designed to support Ethereum with Ethereum.
Yeah, that's great. And Jack, I love the questions that we are getting. And people are looking really into the future, and people want to know, like very good, very high quality questions. So thank you, guys. There are great questions on developer activity on Scale Network, and on what kind of dApps are being built on Scale right now. So Jack, would you speak to what kind of dApps are building on Scale? What are those dApp categories? What are developers excited about?
Yeah, so let me tell, when we're talking to developers, the most powerful message is, oh yeah, you can just take your Ethereum smart contracts and you just port them over to Scale and it takes 2 seconds, okay? It's composability, interoperability, that's really valuable. And then the second piece is then the interchain messaging that takes a little bit longer to deploy. And there's a new version coming out next month that's really exciting. But that helps you have money transfer back and forth between Ethereum and your Scale chain. And so what at the end of the day, what we have is really a solid representation of the dApps we see on the Ethereum mainnet. Right now, there's 70 dApps signed up in the Scale Innovator Program, which gives them early access to Scale chains, access to investors, grants to run Scale chains for a short period of time after network launch, as well as other just benefits. They can help advise the roadmap. And what they do is they test the product, and they give feedback to the product, and they run it, and they've been running it for 2 years, different versions. There's also about 30 more dApps that are really high in the pipeline, and I think another 70 or 80 that are coming into the pipeline. And so there's 100 highly qualified decentralized applications that we are going to be trying to get on board the Scale network within the first 3 months. And they are about a third DeFi projects, about a third gaming, and a third just mixed bag. So in which, frankly, I think a similar breakdown, if you analyze actual usage on Ethereum, that maps really closely over to what we see for projects interested in Scale.
Yeah, I love it. And let's now step forward in a new question category. So there are a lot of great questions on staking. People who are participating in the AMA a lot of them are actual Scale token holders who took part in the public Scale token launch back a couple months ago. So people are staking, people are delegating. Delegators are very important in the Scale security mechanism. And there are questions on whether Activate will stay the only way to stake and delegate, and also whether there will be longer staking durations available. Jack, would you please cover that?
Yes, so there will, Scale's an open source platform. Anybody who wants to come build a staking interface, please come talk to the core team. We're willing to support you. We're really thankful to Consensus for building Activate, helping launch a Scale network, but we want to have other options. Vendor lock-in is not conducive to decentralization, okay? So you'll be seeing, I don't know if I can announce it yet, but one of the top staking platforms that's out there, you'll see an announcement in December that will be another option to complement Activate. And hey, people still keep using Activate. That'll be, I think, there's a lot of great stuff happening there, but we'll also have other mechanisms for you to use, okay? And there'll be probably a third and a fourth within the first quarter of next year. So yeah, there'll be options for you, and we're making sure that you, all of you will have the ability to pick these options. Now, longer terms. So there's a few things at play, and what will happen eventually, there'll be an on-chain vote to implement the longer terms. The reason why it's not implemented now is that you see a lot of early investors that have long lockups. They're locked up for 3 years and 15 months, and this is all after October 1st, right? Many of these early supporters, the staff holders purchased years ago, 2 years ago, and they're finally just starting to vest. And you look at the core team's on a 4-year schedule to start October 1st. Now, in doing analysis, people who were buying in the public sale and then who are buying now are disadvantaged because people who are locked up don't have anything to lose by being locked up for a long time, okay? So we would have shared less of the pie with people who purchase with Activate and with people who are going to come on board and stake after launch. So ideally, the longer terms will come available, I think, at month 9, and there will be a proposal to make that be formalized, okay? And the reason why is we'll start seeing a lot of the SAF holders become unlocked, and then we'll give more incentives and more fairness so everybody can share more in that staking reward pie, okay? And again, this is an open source project, so that will be voted on once we have a governance system to, there'll be a proposal and a smart contract, and people will be able to, share their thoughts directly with the protocol.
Yeah, that's great. There are also, let's talk business and let's talk growth. There are great questions on what scale growth plans, how are we going to grow internationally, whether we are planning to launch ambassador program. So Jack, would you please talk to that?
Yes, so, and actually, Jenny, the ambassador program will be announced in the next week or so. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we know look at all the people from all the countries here. We want all of you to be we're all carrying the torch here and the flag for Scale. And so what we want to do is devote community tokens to ambassadors in every region, every country. And, there's so much content, educational materials. And what we want to do is we want to help educate the world. Scale's not about fake hype, fake partnership announcements. There's real things to announce. There's real materials to bring to each localized market. And we want to reward people for doing that. And hey, I've noticed a lot of questions about Scale t-shirts. There'll also be a Scale store launching. And I think even a program where you can trade ambassador points and things for t-shirts or Scale tokens. I don't know exactly how it'll be implemented. Jenny is working on this, but there'll be a lot of swag too for the community.
Yeah, that's correct. And Scale is very international. So we are majority of Scale community. And of course, as the crypto community itself is extremely international. So we will be running ambassador program in many languages, and we will run the Scale store available all over the world with delivery all over the world. So yeah, guys, stay tuned. Some exciting announcements are coming before the end of November. So let's move on and let's talk more about Scale technology. Stan, we are having great questions on Scale security mechanism. And Scale security mechanism is reliant on innovative application of containerization, on threshold signatures, on the fundamental roots in Ethereum mainnet that Jack already covered. So Stan, would you talk about Scale security mechanism, how it's advantageous against other projects, and also how we're using threshold signatures and node rotation in order to make it even stronger?
Yeah, that's a great question, Zhenya. I will start with telling that at the very early days of Scale, when we were thinking with Jack and some of our other guys about our technology, at one point people asked me, explain how this is going to work. And I realized at that time that I couldn't explain because, if you read all of the blockchain white papers, usually what you see all of kinds of a strange language, something which reads very mathematical, but something which is really hard to understand. And usually great things are simple. And Richard Feynman, a great American scientist, said that if you want to actually do something, you have to teach it. If you want to understand something, you have to teach it. So we realized that if we want to build something really working well, we need to be able to explain it in a simple terms and teach it simply. And what if you look at like all kinds of like white papers and things, and usually the way it goes is that people come to you and say, wow, I have this new blockchain, and this new blockchain is better than the old one, has like better like TPS, super genius, whatever. And but after some time you keep on like reading all of these different white papers, and everyone tells that like they're the best, but it's very hard to differentiate or like compare some how the things compare. So at some point we realized that in order to understand how the things work and in order to simply teach it, we need to split this thing into subcomponents. It's very much like a car. If you know that your car needs to have wheels and engine and brakes and like transmission and all kinds of these things, if you know that every car needs to have it, then it's very easy for you to compare cars, right? You can compare BMW to Honda. You can compare this car to that car, because you know that whatever they tell you, it's actually all engine, wheels, carburetor, transmission, all kinds of these things. So we tried to take this entire blockchain thing and split this into stages in such a way that if you pretty much can take any blockchain and you can analyze it and you say, okay, here's the engine, here's the brakes, or maybe there's no brakes. Some people, telling you, oh, they're so fast, but in fact, do you want a car which doesn't have brakes? Do you want a blockchain which is really fast but doesn't have security? So we've been able, after almost 6 months, we've been able to come up not just with a blockchain or consensus, but with a way to teach and explain every blockchain and every consensus with something which it's a logical structure of the thing. And we have this logical structure of 7 or 8 pieces which glue together, seven or 8 stages. And pretty much you can take any other blockchain and map it into the stages. And also you're able to find problems or security vulnerabilities, because you can take a look and say, okay, this car doesn't have the left tire or whatever, or the brakes are bad, or this or that. So we've been able to come up with this framework. And we are not only able to create a single blockchain, but we're able to, because we have this modular thing, we're able to create all kinds of them, faster and slower, more secure, more decentralized, less decentralized. So when we got to this really flexible thing, but then once we have this 7 stages, at each stage, the next thing we did, we just pretty much sifted through academic papers and university research and tried to find the best algorithms that worked. And after all these things, what we realized is that there were several algorithms that kind of form the cornerstone of this entire field. And one of the algorithms is called threshold signatures, and it's been designed at Stanford by Professor Bonnet and his collaborators around 2001. And this algorithm allows you to create something which is called a threshold signature. An interesting thing about the threshold signature is a mathematical object which represents a vote of many, many, many people. So you could have 2,000 people and 1,050 of them vote. And you can take all of this vote and somehow magically glue them in just a single mathematical number. And this number represents votes of all of these people. So it's really a magic thing mathematically. And it has been introduced at Stanford by Bonnet, but the actual mathematical foundation has been designed by a French mathematician, André Weil, around 1948. And you never know how mathematics get used. It's been totally abstract mathematical research for many, many years. Now it's used to create the signatures. So the signatures are super important because blockchain is essentially a vote. People keep on voting. Nodes keeps on voting. They keep on voting, and they keep on using the fact that the majority of them are good to weed out the bad guys. So threshold signatures is the first thing. And the second super important thing is something which is called Byzantine generals problem, or in the more mathematical terms, it's called asynchronous consensus. It's basically if the original problem, you have 10 generals, and they need to decide how to attack the enemy from the left or from the right, and they need to come to consensus. But then among these generals, there are some bad guys, and they can only communicate in pairs. Essentially, one general can take a guy, and the guy, like on a horse, goes and tells something to the other general. So it's a fundamental mathematical problem. Turns out it's a very simple problem to get to consensus, but it's really, really complex to solve. And being many different solutions, better and better solutions. Some of the solutions got the Fields Prize, which is the best, kind of a Nobel Prize in mathematics. And the one which we are using is actually kind of the most advanced thing currently available. It's been designed at the French University of Nantes around 2015. And it's very efficient, very fast Byzantine consensus that allows us to get to this consensus really fast. So the consensus is the second thing mathematically, which is really important. And the third thing, as I already mentioned, is this framework that we created. The fact that we are modular, and if a better consensus comes in the future, or if better threshold signatures come, or something else, we can always take Scale consensus and Scale blockchain, modify it, and plug better things. So to answer your question, Zhenya, in general, something that differentiates us from others is that we're not telling we designed the blockchain. What we actually end up creating is a modular framework that allows you to analyze all kinds of blockchains. And then having the stages, it allows us to select the best things available.
That's great. Okay, we have a couple last minutes remaining, and let's cover what's coming for Scale. Let's cover what's coming for Scale in the next couple months, and also the further outlook, what's coming in the next couple of years. Jack, would you please take this?
Yeah, and you know what? The first thing I want to say is I was reading here all these phenomenal questions. I started trying to answer a few just through the chat. What I'm realizing is we should do these more frequently. And so I think we're looking for feedback from you. If all of you thought this was valuable, let's do another one next month, and let's keep doing these, okay? Because there's so many good questions, and we're just scratching the surface. We know other people have, jobs, sleep, whatever, depending on what time zone you're in, dinner. So I'd love to keep doing this and let the community collaborate more, and us to be able to give more information back and share and help educate. So let's do it again soon. And so I think the first thing I'd say is we're going to do another one in December, maybe a week or two after the token goes live and the listing happens. And then other big events. Obviously, the Scale token finally being liquid is a huge milestone because we're going to start seeing real action in the protocol, right? And so the utility, we've gone through this proof of use period, and all of a sudden, it's a monetary unit of payment. You're going to start seeing Dapps paying for chains. You're going to start, validators are going to start getting paid to run the nodes. All of you staking, you're going to get paid for your stake, okay? It becomes a real economy. And that, to me, I'm really excited to see that happen. The second piece is interchain messaging. And I think someone asked, how does Scale accrue value over time? There's two huge network effects in the Scale network. And network effects, I challenge all of you, if you don't know a lot about them, search Google network effects and businesses or startups or tech companies. And there's one network effect in that there's pooled security. The more and more nodes that come to the network, the more secure every single chain is. And so the more chains, more people buy, the more people are there to run nodes. And there's a network effect for security. Okay, the second network effect comes with interchain messaging. Because the more dApps that use Scale and use interchain messaging, the more they can just trade, they can just send directly back and forth to each other. And we don't have a lag going back and forth to the mainnet, and we keep we keep less bloat from hitting the mainnet every time you need DeFi projects to have composability. You don't have to always rectify back to the mainnet, okay? Now, this doesn't take business from Ethereum, because every time you stake to Scale, every time you buy a chain, every time a node is rotated, the mainnet gets paid, okay? So it's good for Ethereum too, because it's more business for Ethereum. But interchain messaging is a huge value, a creative network effect, because every dApp that comes there, it just makes it easier and easier for them to all message and share state and funds back and forth with each other. So not funds, but the ledgers to transact for business purposes within applications, all right? And so IMA, Interchain Messaging Agent, launches soon, and an audited version will launch in December. So we'll just keep it at that. We'll save the big announcements for January for the next AMA, but keep your eyes open for those two things and be ready for a lot of progress on the developer side, validator side, and token listing, and how that will impact security and viability of the network.
Okay, that's great. So we are at time, and we'll need to wrap up. But this was a great AMA, and I wanted to say thank you to our speakers. So Jack, Stan, thank you a lot, and thank you to everybody who joined. You guys are amazing community, and it's just unbelievably important to have everybody, to have all of you. So I wanted to wrap up saying that this video from this AMA will be available online here on Livestorm, and it will also be available on YouTube. So please follow us on YouTube. There is a lot of great content there already, on top of this video. Please follow Scale on Twitter. Please follow Jack and Stan on Twitter. And Scale has great technical blog. Please make sure you do read. And Scale has fantastic documentation. So if you are a developer, please check Scale docs. Scale docs are available on scale.network. So documentation is fantastic quality. You guys will be very impressed. So build on Scale, support us. Thank you, guys. Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys.